chat. Is that an option?
Yes.
I don't see the chat button at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, nope. So we do have, that's right. Our normal protocol is we lock the chat out.
Any suggestions how to get it to people? It's not really, drop dead kind of thing, but I'd like them to see it.
We can, I think if you email it to me.
I could send it to you and you can screen share it, I suppose, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
And then when we're done, so we've already got the recording started. So when we're done with the recording and we post that, we'll also post the URL in a conspicuous place where people can find it.
All right, here it comes.
Chloe, do you have something that Eric needs to share?
Yeah, you know what, I'll go ahead and email him something. And if we get to that point, people want to talk about it, then he can share this.
Why don't you go ahead and send it to him now, Casey, so he can be ready for it, if it comes to that.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm going to do a quick screen share right now, just so people can see the URL.
Very nice.
On the recording. McDonaldobservatory.org/pages/lighting-recognition-program.
Cool.
Well, I will say also that we have had other departments at the city that are getting much more in tune with sharing through our website. And we're going to build a couple other pages modeling some of the work we're doing with the dark skies as a data repository. So we really are trying to enhance the venues that people can pull down information pertinent to the community and pertinent to some of the initiatives that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're sharing the Dark Skies Initiative, and all the documents and all the history and everything has been a huge help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it has been a huge help, not just to us that are putting the information together, but having a repository that is a neutral public access spot. It's just huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge, it's a great
I did talk to a reporter out of Houston on Monday with CBS, who is in the process of writing a story on the dark skies. It sounds like from Bill nodding his head, he might have heard from her as well. Really nice individual. And I directed her to our website. She may join today if her schedule permits. But I did tell her we were going to record it. And so if she couldn't join, she could go through the recording afterwards. And I think she's going to try to schedule a visit out here to Alpine and in Fort Davis and the observatory and Terlingua, and just go through the entire region and try to write a perspective piece. So that's forthcoming. I don't know if that's going to occur within the month of April or May, but probably no later than June.
Yeah, she's negotiating with our PR people in Austin right now to get access to film on campus here at the observatory. And it's not a local CBS affiliate like out of Midland, Odessa. It's the national CBS News. So that's encouraging.
Yeah, and I think part of it, as I expressed to Alyssa, was, it's the practical application of what we try to accomplish around dark skies. It's picking fixtures that are pushing light down to the ground, not upwards, that mitigates glare for those that are out walking, that those are driving, which to me creates a better safety element. I'm one who walks in the dark every morning, and I prefer the lights pointing down than pointing in my eyes. So that's one practical piece. The other piece I think is just the light itself, migrating away from the white light to that softer light really makes a difference, not only aesthetically, but I think longer term from an energy consumption perspective. We don't see so much on the larger energy savings on the residential side, though it is there. But I think on the commercial side, we then have that cost element. So my expression to Alyssa was, if you can capture that piece, maybe you'll be able to grab more interest from, call it the passive citizen who hears about dark skies, but isn't real engaged in it. How do you grab them and get them engaged? So anyway, for what it's worth, nice individual. Hopefully she'll put together, good piece that'll get out there.
Just an observation, engagement is something that happens through, good media coverage. And, I wish we had another newspaper in town. I'll just leave it there.
I got through the avalanche 2 minutes today.
They did a very nice article last week on our meeting with the chamber
Good.
in
Yeah.
Marathon. Yeah.
In Marathon, yeah.
Very well
That
done.
was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like the volume of articles has gone down there, and I don't know why JT has shrunk the articles. Maybe it's just he's only wanting to print so many pages. I just don't know. And for those of you who do not know, Stephen Paulson is not going to be with the Sentinel much longer. He's going to move into some other ventures. He's going to stay in the area, but is going to pivot out of that role.
Who's taking his place? Don't know.
I don't know. We have somebody trying to enter whose name is Meow, MEOWMIAU. Is anybody familiar with that? We normally don't allow people in if we don't recognize a name or they have something that seems a little funny.
Yeah, no, that's nobody I know. And off the top, Kathy, do you know that name?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we'll just let them sit there.
Glad to see Marco. Hello, Marco. How are you doing?
Hi, Marco.
Hey, good morning. I'm doing very well. Thank you. Lots going on here also with the Alamo in this area.
Excellent.
Hey, Kathy?
I can't talk right now.
Yeah, can you mute your microphone?
Thought I was, yes.
Thank you. Please mute. Thank you.
I did also speak with David and Jessica on the new laundry facility that's gone in. They're going to go talk to Mr. Jack. He is the individual that also owns the Baker's Dozen donut shop right next to it, about shielding those front lights so that they point down instead of a little up. I will say that right at the end of my COVID quarantine, I did go over there and use his facility, and it is a very nice laundry facility. So
It looks like it, yeah.
he seems to be one that is pretty agreeable, doesn't want to, irritate people or make any waves. He loves selling donuts, and he'll, I'm sure, put some shielding on that or point them downwards.
Or change them out. It's an awful lot of light on a sign.
Yeah, he doesn't need so much, really. I understand he was, even because he keeping it open 24 hours, he was trying to, my sense is, and I don't know him, I've not talked to him, but my sense is he was probably trying to demonstrate some level of added security, though I would tell you that corner's pretty well lit up between the gas station. Rusty's got his lights down pretty much at Big Bend Telephone. But then you've got the school district, and they've got, the series of lights around that corner of the school too. So
Yeah, and that parking lot in front of the Baker's Dozen, that has parking lot lights in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and there's
the
lights
glare-
and stuff.
The glare
Yeah.
from his new lights actually is going to hamper visibility, not improve it. It's not really a safer
Right.
situation.
Yeah. And I keep meaning, I haven't seen Rusty Moore lately. Rusty's got a light in his back parking lot that actually shines all the way through Fighting Buck into the golf course.
Oh
I
my
know
goodness.
he's trying to keep, because that's where they have all their work trucks, right? So his
Right,
goal
right.
is safety on the work trucks. But I was looking at it the other morning when I was walking down Fighting Buck, and I thought, we can shield that a little bit and
Point it down a little bit more.
yeah, point it down to the ground, and he'll actually get a better effect. Then that's the stuff that I tell people. Like, I was so fascinated with Bill's presentation on the first workshop, because some of the examples that he showed, where when you start shielding, how you actually get better illumination on the ground. And that's really what many people are trying to accomplish. And there's a real win-win here. Of course, I'm preaching to the choir with Bill and Laura and Chloe and Kathy, but I fundamentally believe it's just this education piece, and people can accomplish what they want to accomplish.
I'll turn off my sound again, but I missed part of what you're saying about the donuts. I just ran into Dave Busey the other day at True Value, and he commented on the lights that the new laundromat had put up and how much they glared.
That's what we were talking about, Kathy.
Okay.
I talked to David Hale and Jessica Baroche, who is working for David. Those of you probably knew Jessica. She worked at Blue Water for like 10 years. She was the store manager for John over there. And when he reopened, she did not go back to work there, but we were fortunate enough to pick her up in the city, and she is going through code enforcement training right now. She'll be code enforcement and permit, and eventually build her skill and become a building official.
Next slide.
Great. Good for her.
Yeah, she's fantastic. If you don't know Jessica, she's really a neat lady, and we're fortunate to have her on the city team.
Yeah, that's congratulations. That's a good choice. One other quick question is, Dave and I were talking about it. When you do engineering in, say, Alaska, you need to have an Arctic engineering degree. Has anything been looked into, like a dark sky engineering certification that's required for people doing electrical work around here? Because just last week we saw Wayne Jones putting up 2 big lights back behind the church, the Shirley Mitchell's church, that are not going to point down. We haven't been there during the night, but anyway, that would be an added, I think, element later on, that people doing electrical work here, if they could have some dark sky engineering certification, might be useful.
I'm not aware of any such certification, and there may well be, but I think it's safe to say that if contractors and owners, for that matter, having work done, installing lights, are aware of the ordinance up front before they devise a plan on how to light their property, that they will they'll want to comply. So I don't think anybody has any malice in installing these out of compliance lights. They're just, it's a lack of awareness.
Yeah.
I agree, but
Information-
they're not even, there doesn't seem to be compliance with the current law, the one that's in effect now, because some of these appear, from what I understand and reading it, to be out of compliance with the current ordinance.
Mhm. Yeah, we do get folks that put up that are outside of the ordinance, and then we go back and start working through compliance with that, whether we have to write them a warning or citation. And that's the tough part of David Hale's department. I used to say this with Robert Polanco, you're the least liked guy in town.
Hey, Eric, you want to pull up the first or the second slide for me?
Mhm.
I just wanted to tell everybody thank you who's done volunteer work and I can't remember what else is there.
This one?
I don't see anything yet. Okay, that's the first one.
Okay.
Number 3, this is where you are, everybody. Workshop number 3, April 8th, 10 a.m. via Zoom. Okay, next one.
You want the next slide or the next?
Yes, next slide, please. And this is our contact information. My contact information is there. Chloe's is there. Chloe's going to do a talk. She's going to present some information about the two hot tax bills that are at the legislature, and then Bill's going to present some information, and his contact information is there, and then some where you can International Dark Sky McDonald Observatory. Okay, next one, please. This is about what we're doing today. I really just wanted to make sure that I said thank you to everybody. Take a look at the draft. Several people have spent a lot of time going through the draft and the revisions and coming up with some really good input, clarifications on many points, and trying to make a language that is usable or understandable as best as possible. So, and get rid of any confusion and things that are inconsistent in the current ordinance. So we really cleaned up a lot of it, and I'm sure that there is more to go. And while I'm thinking about it, Eric, I know that the draft that you guys have a copy of now is there's a section in there on enforcement.
Mhm.
And I realized that at a couple of your previous maybe two council meetings ago, you were David was talking, presenting some information about bringing the enforcement measures into some sort of standardized process.
Correct.
And I assume that when you have that ironed out, that'll be the part that is referred to in the draft ordinance. So I guess there'll be some cross-referencing there when you get that language sorted out.
Right. And
Mhm.
one of the pieces, just so everybody's fully aware from a code compliance perspective, like I can go through any block in the city of Alpine, and I typically find between 3 and 6 violations. And so from a code enforcement perspective, and part of what David was trying to share there is we're trying to also be a friendly community, and a lot of people that are out of compliance, they're out of compliance simply because they just don't know what the local city ordinance is. And I think to your point, Laura, what we're trying to have is kind of the quick sheet that says these are the main items, So high weeds, junk vehicles, lighting, health and sanitation, right? And then when Jessica in the new code, second code compliance officer that we're in the process of hiring are out there, their first step is going to be to talk to the resident and go through, that list and say, you've got these opportunities on your property, and give them some time to resolve. It's not in perpetuity, but most of the time we look at 10 days, but there are some things that can take a month to resolve. And then from that point forward, if they continue to be out of compliance, then they would get a citation. So that's really what David was referring to. And we're trying to really focus on the high bar items within the community. And we know, dark skies, for example, is become a high bar item within the community. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, there's lots of pieces, education's a big part of it. And I see future ongoing workshops and star parties, other activities and events to draw the community into more information and fun opportunities to learn more, because once you see it, you can't unsee it, right, Eric?
Correct.
You know that very well. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I just really wanted to make sure that I give a shout out to the Alpine Downtown Association and the Big Bend Conservation Alliance and city staff. You guys, everybody's been so generous and so constructive and very team oriented. I really appreciate all that, the good energy that's gone into it. And I know that there's a lot of work ahead, so let's carry on. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, this is all the stuff that's on the City of Alpine's website. So if you go to their news release page and look for the dark skies, there's two little dark sky things on their web page, their news page, and lots of information there. And so this is I guess most of it. Anyway, super helpful that you guys have allowed that space to be used for all of this, and hopefully it'll stay there, and people can add to it as time goes by. Then you have something pertinent, like the final draft of this and the approved version of the proposed ordinance actually gets posted there for everybody to see. Okay, let's see, what's the next slide, Eric?
Here we go. That's where
okay, yeah, and then this is page 1 of the draft. And Eric, let's listen to Chloe and Bill, and then you decide how much time you want to spend looking through this draft, or whatever you need to do.
Okay, yeah, I know Chloe's got some stuff to share today, so let's go with Chloe first and then Bill second. Will that work?
Yep, fine with me.
Okay, and I'm going to stop sharing the screen while Chloe talks. And Chloe, if you need me to share anything, you can just email it over and I can do that.
Okay. I did share a document, a PowerPoint that could be helpful just to show some illustration. So if you didn't get it, let me know. But it'll be a good supplement to what I'm talking about. But I'll go ahead and start, and if you want to look for that and you find it, that'd be great. But good morning, everybody. My name is Chloe Crumley with the National Parks Conservation Association. I'm a native Texan. I'm from San Antonio, and I am also part of the Texas IDA chapter. And so one initiative that we're working on is how we can help preserve the dark skies in West Texas and ideally around our other national park sites. And mainly because, as many of you already know, but we're losing a lot of our beautiful night skies due to just development and misinformation and light pollution. But the interesting thing about light pollution is that it can be easily fixed with some updated infrastructure. So a little bit of background though on NPCA. We're a 100-year-old nonprofit that works for the national park sites to help defend them. We're not government related, so we just work with community members and citizens to help preserve the park sites and what they have to offer. And here in Texas, we have 16 national park sites that go all the way from Big Thicket in East Texas to Chamizal and El Paso. And so my favorite thing about the parks in Texas is that they really represent the communities that they're in. So each park is very different of the story it tells and the community it represents and the resources. And the resource that we want to represent and help preserve is the dark skies in West Texas. And because many communities and generations of families have already been living out there, you know, in relation to the night sky have this experience with it, but we're seeing it be impacted. And so we want to work with West Texas to how to help continue the education of tourists and visitors that get out there, but then hopefully use West Texas as this shining example of how we can really protect the night sky and how other communities can implement this as well. So that leads me to two bills in the current legislature in Texas. It's House Bill 4305 and Senate Bill 2133. And these are two bills it's Representative Morales and Senator Blanco, both in West Texas. In the Hill Country, these two bills basically allow the additional use of hot funds or additional avenue for hot funds for construction, maintenance, purchasing, and installation of dark sky friendly lighting. So similar to what was just being talked about how a lot of this can be fixed with better light fixtures. This is an opportunity for communities in Jeff Davis, Brewster, and Presidio to use hot funds towards purchasing updated lighting. And how they decide to use that lighting, whether it's for residents or a parking lot or public buildings, is up to each community. In the Hill Country, a bill like this passed similarly last session, right around the LBJ Ranch National Park site. And that helped encourage the park site to apply for their IDA designation. And that community was also able to see success in the bill with also one of the hotels had all of their light fixtures updated thanks to this. And so seeing that it was successful and continuing to be successful, we thought it'd be a good way to use it in West Texas as well. So the bill is not a mandate. It's completely optional for communities to opt into. There is a limit of how much a community can use. It's up to 25%, but it's based off of how many kind of the visitors and hot tax you think is being used or people are coming in for dark skies. So if you think only 1% of visitors are coming to experience the night sky, then only 1% of hot tax can be used for that infrastructure. But as in previous workshops and other slides done by Laura and by Bill, I'm sure you know and you've seen that those updated lighting in each community, kind of what the difference it can make. And sometimes it's not even purchasing a whole new hood, but it might just be purchasing a nice new light bulb. And so some of those fixed costs can be not incredibly high, and this is an opportunity to be budgeted for that. So this is it's a may, not a shall. So it's just an optional way to use hot funds for community lighting improvements. And it's great because again, this light's for everybody. It doesn't have to be used specifically for a tourist attraction, but it just to update the whole community because the community is attracting people for the night sky. And it's it would happen this legislative session. And the good thing about this bill too is it protects hot funds that already are spent on marketing and advertising. And so it wouldn't detract from anything that you're already spending on. Just getting another optional way to do that. So if Eric, if that PowerPoint got to you, I can kind of show what I talked about with some visuals.
Yeah, can you resend that?
Yeah,
the PowerPoint didn't come through.
Okay, and it may not. I'm having a hard time with our internet today for some reason. And pardon the noise. If you need me to repeat anything, I'm happy to do so.
Like you got construction going on.
Yes, oh, we do. Some damage from the snowstorm, so still getting all that fixed. Let's see if I can resend this to you. Okay, let's try this one. See if it'll work. While this is being sent to present, does anybody have any questions about what I mentioned thus far?
So it's House Bill 4305, and that's Eddie Morales.
Yes, House Bill 4305, Eddie Morales, and Senate Bill 2133 with Senator Blanco. And I will provide this, just interesting. This is we just got this update late last night that the House bill has a hearing set on Monday. So it's moving a little faster than we anticipated, but we are still hoping to have, we have been collecting letters of support and talking to the counties and cities and communities about this opportunity. So we're hoping that this will be good. Perfect. So this is just my opening slide about some of our work. The second slide just shows you a little bit about the national parks I talked about and what they kind of contribute to the area. And there's 16 different park sites in Texas, and they range. But the big concern we have is trying to protect the dark skies in West Texas, and doing that through multiple means. One thing I haven't mentioned yet, but we're working on, is a placemat, to like an activity sheet to give out to visitor centers. And I reached out to a handful of community members recently about this opportunity to get feedback. So we're hoping to continue that on the ground education, as well as providing different avenues. In the third slide, you'll see this is kind of this two-part pitch about the light pollution that you see expanding across Texas, but how this would also benefit a lot of communities who are trying to participate in this Big Bend Reserve, knowing that if you're trying to update your lighting ordinance, need to comply, this is a chance for you to do that with this additional hot fund use, and how it would really help that. The next slide kind of just shows that this isn't about creating or mandating anything. It's not about turning off lights. It is just about how we can physically turn them down or provide new bulbs, what that looks like. And the bottom two pictures was the press release and information about the Swiss Lodge in the Hill Country that's had success of doing this and updating all of their lighting. And so I'm sure you've seen that picture. I stole that from Bill Wren. I thought that was a great picture of Hotel Olympia, of that example. The next just talks about some of the bill specifics, and what I mentioned earlier, that it's how it's about purchasing, maintenance, infrastructure, installation, all that the hot funds can be used towards, and that it's a limit. You can't use more than 25%, but you're also preserving marketing and advertising. And it can be applied to residents as well as businesses, or government buildings, parking lots, however the community sees fit to update their lighting. And so the bill is being moved. We do have partners on board, but we're still always looking for more community support because we want this to benefit the region. And so if you have questions or ideas or inputs on this and how it can better the community, knowing that while I visit West Texas and love West Texas, I'm not a West Texas resident. So I'm always looking for feedback on how we can continue working on the best ways to help protect our national parks, but also the gateway communities that live in and around them. And so, do you have any questions about this?
You know, Chloe, I think the more and more I think about this bill, or these two bills, of course, I mean, you and I have talked about some of the challenges that Alpine specifically has had with its hotel occupancy tax primarily relative to the 50% encumbrance on advertising, which I don't necessarily consider that an encumbrance. I think it's important that we spend half the dollars on advertising to draw more people in. There's two other significant portions that we use the fund for. One is running our visitor center, and then the work that Chris Ruggia does as far as driving the advertising out there. And then the second thing is event sponsorships that are designed to bring people into the community. We're always looking to try to grow events. And I think what could really happen, and Laura and I have talked about this a little bit, but if we have a larger event that encapsulates Alpine for a day or a portion or whatnot, and then you bolt on to that funding for fixture restoration, or however we want to term it, right, is part of that annual request. I think you really could get people to rally around that. It's not going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, but even if you started the year with 10,000 or 7,500, and then you picked X amount of places and said, we're really going to target, with these dollars, and have that combined with an event so that we get added exposure. I certainly think something like that would be well received. Just my perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard it mentioned earlier, but still looking at having, continually having events around dark sky, I think educational events, maybe there's a market day with a dark sky component. And so continually having that. And in, 2024, the solar eclipse will happen. And so thinking about that'll, the path of totality across Texas. And so how can communities really use this as an opportunity to continue raising funds? And then I think what I like about this bill too, is that it's not just about, as much as we want to work on advertising and get people out there, it also helps with the infrastructure and community improvement of the space and energy savings and cost savings. And it's can allow for, some, in Austin, it goes towards the convention center. And so you're updating structures. And so it's kind of nice to put money back into the community that sees a lot of tourists come in, and that money can go back to updating lighting, which can, provide a job for somebody in the area. You're purchasing locally, you're going to have cost savings, and I Bill, I'd like your perspective on this too, of how much it's hard to say for each building, but thinking of like Hotel Olympia, or thinking of some place did recently updating their lighting, how much that cost is, and just thinking about that, because again, it could be 1% of the hot revenue that came in, and it's just a couple $1,000s that came from a cool night sky informational session that you did in Alpine, and it brought in a handful of people, and so yeah, I agree. I think this could be beneficial, or not. I don't think it should be $100,000, but something.
Yeah, and I think having the legislation pass that gives us the flexibility,
Right.
that's the piece that Chris and I are always tracking, is are we operating within constructs of the law, right? So if we bring in $500,000 this year in hot tax, we have to document $250,000 in advertising spend. We have to. And so we're very particular about that, giving us, there's some things that we're really looking for. Is it historical preservation, right? So we can spend up to 15% of the fund on that. But, if this goes through, even if it went through at 15% versus 25%, you at least could say, okay, if I did allocate X amount of dollars to this, we know from an audit perspective, it's going to be clean, and we're not going to get challenged on it. So I think having the flexibility there certainly is worthwhile. And then, I'll push hard locally, and it's nice we've got Laura on our hot audit committee. that reviews the events that are coming in and the requests for dollars. And I think as we build out something that is a dark sky friendly event that happens in Alpine beyond just the star parties and things that are happening outside of Alpine. And then you attach, dollars to that as well for people that need the financial assistance to retrofit their home. And even if we had 50 people put in and we drew names and did,
Right.
the lucky 10, and you get the retrofit, and we have a local electrician that does the work, and so we could make it fun too. And
If I may, just a little bit of experience from the observatory's point of view. We've helped offset the cost for retrofitting lighting in the region now for decades, and through privately donated funds. I might add, it's not state money, but I can conclusively say that having a pot of money that you can draw on to help offset cost is the path of least resistance. It's really helpful when you approach people about bringing their lighting into compliance to have that money available. And often it's not a matter of paying for the entire retrofit project. We've run into a number of examples where we've just basically provided seed money, purchased several fixtures, and the owner purchases the rest of them and sees that they're installed and what have you. So even just seed money is a good way of looking at it.
totally agree, Bill. Totally agree. I mean, there are property after property in Alpine where we have residents who, would be $500, $600, $700 out of their pocket, and many of them just, they might have $100 they could spend, but if somebody helped them get over the edge, they would endorse it and make sure all the work got done.
The piece on flexibility too, I want to mention that the bill is also, to your point, I think just having the bill ideally passed just gives the option. And we know that with the legislature meeting every 2 years, it's just nice to kind of have something in place to have the opportunity to. And the bill itself is written in a way where it's pretty flexible on the audit piece. They just, it's a good faith based estimate on how many people are coming. So you can feel, and like in Presidio, for example, like they're not having a lot of hot revenue, not having a lot of people. So their estimate is like maybe 1% of people are coming, maybe 0.1% of people are coming, but they were like, hey, that's $500 that we can spend on a lighting update. If they have like the option to or want to, but yeah, it's flexible. It is a pot of money, to Bill's point, to kind of encourage more lights updates, and it is just, it's optional and can be used as the community needs it or doesn't need it. So
Okay, cool. Thank you, Chloe. Appreciate it. Thank you. I want Bill to talk, Eric, before he run out of time.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to take much time, but last week we launched a recognition program. There was a press release out of the University of Texas that identified the initial 4 recipients of this recognition program. This is all a part of our effort to raise awareness and build broad-based community support for our application to the International Dark Sky Association for the Dark Sky Reserve that Bill referred to. And Eric, I don't know if you can put up that URL that I sent you, just because there are pictures of the 4 first recipients of the award. I think Jeff Davis County Courthouse and Annex Building are among them. There you go. You can see that there's on the left is the decal that people can display in their windows if they're so inclined. And we also have a glass framed, plexiglass frame poster that they can put on their wall. But Jeff Davis County Courthouse, the Big Bend Sentinel Building, Printco in Alpine, and demonstrating that good night sky friendly lighting scales up from residential to commercial to industrial. We awarded the recognition to for their construction of the cryogenic plant north of Balmorhea for Apache Corporation. Those are the first 4 recipients. And we've, since that press release went out, we've already had inquiries from 2 additional individuals about 3 different properties that they would like to see recognized in our next round of awards. So, so far it's been a success. And that's really all I wanted to share with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. It's neat to see the awards unfold.
Yeah,
And
very
there's
nice.
and there's an application process or a nomination process. Okay, and anybody that, and then the observatory screens the criteria.
That's
awesome.
right. Yeah. We do the evaluation. We'll start off asking people to submit photos and probably a site visit to confirm that the lighting is in fact in compliance and meets the criteria will be kind of the last step before people are notified. We've got letters of thanks from our superintendent going out to the current awardees, and we're just very pleased with the response. It's great to have examples in the community that you can point people to, especially high profile examples like the courthouse or the Senate building and Marfin, certainly the oil and gas facilities that we can point the industry to have a look. And they do like it. As I've told you all, they're convinced that this type of lighting is better for their visibility and safety at night.
Perfect. John Kennedy, would you like to chime in about the Alpine Downtown Association or your experience? I mean, you've done a lot of work in the field, helping get this together.
Sure. Yeah, I've been driving around in the middle of the night, measuring the sky, which has been pretty fun. But yeah, we've actually had a lot of robust engagement from our membership on this issue, and we're very supportive of doing what we can to support updating lighting and working on the lighting site plans as well with folks. So we're
Thank you. I really appreciate all the help that you've given. Marco, did you want to add 2 cents or a nickel?
Well, I look forward to meeting Eric sometime. I think that I like to look at basically events or special events that you have in the area. I know several companies would do running events and half-day marathons or half marathons, and I think there's a lot of interest in people running and exercising and being in the outdoors. So I think there's a huge new demographic where people are looking for hiking and going to the parks and the outdoors. So it's almost like an entire new leisure family movement that has started because of COVID in the past 2 years. People just want to get out, drive somewhere, and experience the outdoors. So I look forward to maybe getting a list of all events and see how we can help you create some new events where you don't have to put any money. These companies do it, or this business. A lot of them are very small businesses. Just to give you an idea, we have a guy by the name Bill Gardner here who has 5 run events in Texas, and he does one at McAllister Park at night. Starts about 8:30 at night, and it's all at night, so people have to wear all these flashlights and all that. It's kind of fun, and the event is called the Chupacabra Run, and he's had it for like 6 years, and he has 600 runners that come every year, and it's just a fun event. And they experience the McAllister Park at night. And by the way, that's the only event that the city of San Antonio Parks Department has at night. Everything else is during the day or in the morning. So it's very, very different. That's why people like to be outdoors and experience. And it's just a beautiful night. I've been there out of the last 6 years, 5 of them, and I help him organize all that. So I'm just looking for ideas where you could bring events where you're not putting any money. It creates hotel, motel taxes for you, sales taxes, and people enjoy. And I would say first-time visitors to the area of Alpine and all that.
That's true. Nighttime programs, Bill likes to say too, they're not a drive-by program. You got to stay once you get out there. So
Yep. So lots of ideas, and I just wanted to listen and see what you're doing. I think it's really important to get these bills passed and keep working. And your, Laura, your keyword, and Bill has said it again, educating people, educating about the lighting and all that. City Public Service here has a program. It's review every year. They help the businesses convert all their lighting to LED, and the funding can run between 10% to 50%. We qualified. I managed 14 soccer fields, and luckily last year we qualified for that. And I would tell you, they paid almost 60% of my expense. So I have all brand new LED lights, and I'm right within 1 mile of the airport. So everyone was happy. The city, the airport, us, and it's all lighting aiming down. There's not a single, or not even a 1% aiming to the sky. So it's very safe lighting.
Oh, great. That's good. That's good. Okay, Mr. Eric, where do we go from here?
So we do have, I've also got the ordinance that's been revised. The draft. I don't know how many people have had a chance to really go through it and offer up any additional comments.
John Kennedy can probably attest to quite a number of people, a whole bunch of people. Do you want to know, do you want me to send you a list of all the people who have turned in comments? Do you want me to send you, what would you like from me? Because I have a lot of that information. Would that be helpful to you?
Yeah, actually, if you could send me the list of people that have provided input.
Sure, I can do that.
That would be great.
A lot of people
yeah,
help.
I think the biggest piece, and this is what I had shared after the second workshop, that's the revision that council's going to really have to debate through will be, it's actually up at the top. I'm sorry for my scrolling, but the 5-year cutoff area.
That's, yeah, that I know that is a negotiable end date. There's nothing in there. In the current ordinance had 10 years and nothing's changed. So that's where you have to, you're going to have that conversation.
Yeah.
10 years is, 10 years is okay. And I know that Martha's kind of trying to, watch what we've got going on in Alpine. I think Alpine's absolutely going to set a standard as far as what's, the forward thinking, looking into the future, making it less difficult for coming, the next generation to fix, actually do something to actually preserve what we have,
right.
And keep it from getting worse, and decide if Alpine really wants to be a destination that offers stars, or that it's a level of commitment that they've really got to articulate and show. And
Yeah,
I know that towns with lighting ordinances, they have to run things a little differently, but the light at night really looks so much better on the ground. And there are lots of things, we have to get resources and they have to be available in the stores. And yes, there's many moving parts that need to be worked into it. And So as the city council goes forward and they want to have conversations and discussion, I think it would be really good if there was a feedback loop from them. Instead of just having a conversation and shutting the book on it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that that's what they would do, but I think that this is a good opportunity for even more robust discussion on the topic. And
Right, because yeah, it's not just the working through the non-conforming piece. I think it's also there's significant work that can be done with the local vendors that are selling dark sky compliant fixtures and bulbs, right? So, we hear others that are in tune with dark skies say, well, I can't even buy the proper light bulbs in town.
no, I looked, I went down to the hardware stores and I looked, and you can find them. You just have to read the labels.
Okay.
And information would be great. But it has to get easier to buy a night sky friendly
Yes.
fixture floodlight than it is to buy an unshielded barn light.
Right.
So
that's where, Bob
Yeah.
Ward and Robert Murphy are critical to the implementation side. So if
Mhm.
Orson's True Value and McCoy's are stocking and signage within their aisles that let people know that Alpine is a dark sky friendly community, we have an expectation that all new or replacement fixtures going in meet these standards, right? So to me, that's got to be front and center in these
Yeah.
stores. And that's going to require Bob and Robert to get on board with this. I know both of them. They're both, wonderful individuals. And my sense is they won't have an issue with putting out signage and selling fixtures that are dark sky compliant. What I don't think that they'll do is I don't think they'll pull down everything else.
So those unshielded barn lights will stay on the shelf is what you're afraid of?
Well, I think that's a real risk, right? So there has to be the conversations with Bob and Robert about that.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah. I think, I think once they see that that's the way the market's going to go, that's kind of the way the market's going to go.
Yeah.
And drive this if it's handled properly, or, the education component is strong.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I believe the market will rule the day.
Right.
Eventually.
Yeah, it will. Yeah. But I really think in the short term, the better signage and the better access to it will really help shift. And then I'm still trying to understand on the timing side of it. Well, what language makes sense? Do we say we're trying to do this in 5 years or 7 years or 10 years? It is good to draw the line in the sand. Otherwise, the in perpetuity, nobody pays attention. So I think there's some opportunity there. It looks like Kathy's raising her hand.
Yes, I wanted to say you were talking about Bob and also Robert at McCoy's. I spoke with Robert a few weeks ago about light fixtures, looking and seeing that he had no fixtures that were dark sky compliant. Yes, they have light bulbs. And he said, well, the big problem is that he cannot find a wholesaler, who to order the fixtures from. And I've since that time gotten some sources. Actually, Brenda from Home Elements gave me several good sources, and I have to check them out again and send them. I can send them both, and I will send them to you, Laura, and everyone, but some that she had worked with in the past that might be good alternatives. But we don't know also if Bob and Robert are limited by what comes from corporation, you know, True Value or McCoy's, if that. But Robert pointed out how McCoy's did go to the expense and put out dark sky friendly lights there at the Alpine building. So I'll follow up on that.
Yeah. Yeah, and the McCoy family has always been a great community steward, as well as Bob Ward. And I think it's, and I appreciate you having the conversation with Robert, because the more people that have these friendly, productive conversations with both Bob and Robert, then all of a sudden it's as if they say, wow, there is this energy within the community for the dark skies to really be important and pursued. You know, as much as I can pick up the phone and call them, I'm just simply one voice. And the more folks that talk with them, the better. And that's just been my experience within the community, that it's really, really helpful. So thank you, Kathy, for doing that.
Yeah, that's really, it's very, very important that more people from the community reach out to, you know, their retailers and doing exactly that. That's awesome.
The other thing I think would be helpful for us to produce, Laura, would be what that signage should look like within the stores, right? And I think we could have some basic template of that, and then pull Chris Ruggia in or pull Gio in to pull together a finished product. And I think if we can produce that, it just makes it easier for Bob and Robert.
Yeah, Chris and I talked about that, coming up with some sort of just basic piece of information on a couple of images that, so we have some information. McDonald Observatory has some really nice graphics that they've shared. International Dark Sky Association has lots of stuff. I need to, like, how much information do you need? There's lots of stuff available, and you can put it together. So Chris and I have discussed this. If you go to the end of the ordinance, the very last few pages has examples of good, bad, and different kinds of fixtures. So that information is encoded into this ordinance. I mean, it's there, and it is referred to in the ordinance. So that information is available in the draft. So that's just so that you know where to go looking for it. You have it there in your hand someplace. And then, so I can easily send some other information. I don't know how much, I mean, I'll get back with Chris. I'll get back with Chris.
Just thinking out loud, Laura, I'm just, so if I'm new to town, right? I just bought a property and I'm doing some renovation.
It'd be nice if the realtors.
Yeah, I show up at McCoy's and I'm looking at fixtures because I want to replace my outdoor light fixture. And then there's a sign there, and it can't be too detailed. It has to, you know, hey, we're a dark skies friendly community. We have ordinance in place. Here are the general basics of the ordinance, and then the imagery maybe on a second sheet that shows good dark sky versus bad dark sky. And I think those two pieces are super important to be able to produce and have available for both Robert and Bob.
Eric, I just sent you a photograph of some signage that Lowe's department stores have been using in their lighting section.
Okay, great.
They call it good neighbor lighting. It's just an example. I think Home Depot does it differently, but that's an example of the signage that Lowe's uses.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okie dokie. Okay, we'll help with that. We'll get that rolling. Keep the ball rolling. Okay, Eric, so do you have any questions, any other questions specific to the draft ordinance?
I
that we can-
don't, yeah.
Okay. So I'm just looking at the time right now, and it's 10 minutes after 11. And I don't know if everybody was planning on an hour or longer. I just want to be considerate of people's time. I'd like to talk for as long as we can. I just want to make sure that if anybody needs to have a say or ask any questions that they can before they leave. Is there anybody that needs to ask anything?
Yeah, no, I think this has been very productive and
Okay.
appreciate all the engagement. And I think if you'll send me over the editors, Laura, I'm going to include that in the packet, and I'll be addressing this in my city manager report, and then get the temperament from council through the city manager report on if there's any adjustments that they'd like to the updates to the ordinance, and anticipate doing a first reading on the ordinance changes May 4th, and then the second reading on May 18th. So
May 4th and then May 18th. Okay, got the date. Hey, I have another idea too that I wanted to toss out to you, since we have we have a good audience who might like to hear this. One of the things that I have been doing is trying to scope out through town, in town and on the periphery of the city, a location to hold star parties. And this is something that Chris and I have talked about as well. And he suggested Baines Park, and I went up and looked at it, and there's really too much street light up there. There are 3 street lights on 3 sides of it, and so that's really too much street lighting. So I've been looking around, and on the outskirt of the city, going north on 18, is it 118 or 180?
Mhm.
Whatever the
118.
just past, it's past the hospital, and it's on the right side of the road, and there's a sign there. It looks like an abandoned sign. It says Big Bend Event Center,
Mhm.
and it's the old Big Bend Event Center place. And I think it's still private property. I don't know who owns it.
The county owns a piece of property. That's their slab that's out there. Mhm.
Oh, is there? I know there's a slab and there's some other stuff out there too. Looks like some small bits on parking lot or something. Anyway, I was wondering about, how would the city be able to help put on a city-sponsored star party? Do you think they'd be interested in doing that? Just some sort of an event in the city that they could co-sponsor with volunteers who want to hold a star party and have some sort of educational event. I don't know if you could do it in the county, because it is county land.
Well, we could host some of it in the county as well. I think I could twist the arm on the people on our hotel committee to vote yes. Support that recommendation to council. And yeah, I think this would be appropriate if we could pull something together this fiscal year. I mean, we're gonna come back up with some other recommendations as we get into May, because we just would need council to approve another budget amendment on that. But certainly, yes, we could.
Okay, Bill has his hand up.
If I may, just another way to look at this. I mean, I appreciate the need to get away from city lights to see deep sky objects, galaxies and some faint star clusters and things like that. But there's another way to approach it. There's a group in San Antonio, for example, that calls itself SALSA, the San Antonio League of Sidewalk Astronomers. And they're in the habit of taking their telescopes to events in the city that are already happening, say a presentation in a theater or some event where, and they set up their telescopes on the sidewalk outside the venue. And as people are leaving, they show them the craters and the mountains on the moon, the rings around Saturn, the moons of Jupiter, things that you can see from a light polluted area. And it's, you know, it's, they don't have to come to you to a special site. You're coming to them. It's just another way of looking at doing public outreach and, you know, kind of a star party of sorts.
Yeah, that's neat. That's neat.
Something like that could work in parallel with an event like Viva Big Bend too, where we know people are going to be out in the evening. Some of them may have a drink or two too much, but not everyone certainly would. And
of course, it's not a good time for people to be putting their eyes to eyepieces, and you know.
Yeah.
But
you do have a lot of people like me that just go for the music, not for the drinking. So
yeah, I've had people fall over my telescope before, so I understand.
the nice thing is we get all different diverse groups.
Mhm.
But that, I think, you know, we've got a couple other events too that would be more evening oriented. You know, even around 4th of July weekend, that might be timing as well.
Okay.
McDonald Observatory has a booth down on Town Square in Fort Davis every 4th of July, and we have a telescope with a solar filter on it, so we can we set up and show people sunspots and solar flares and prominences during the daytime. So that's an option as well.
Yeah. And I do think with the passage of the updates to the ordinance, it is going to be important to have some type of event over this summer that keeps it top of mind with people. Or I just, my gut tells me that would be important.
Yeah, it is important. Yeah. Yeah.
Looks like Kathy's got her hand up.
Yes, I wanted to add a couple of different things. I really like Bill's comments about sidewalk events in San Antonio, and we met a few times, I think once or twice, a group of people looking at the constituents, like doing more education locally so that people could accept maybe more easily the outdoor lighting ordinance, you know, and become more interested in dark skies. We identified several groups. So one thing we wanted to do was particularly get all of the citizens of Alpine involved and interested in it. And that's why Baines Park was one place that did come up. I know that there's more lights there, but it's on the south side of the track, so to speak. And they were saying how we don't always have a really good mix of people there, and we would like to incorporate more of the family type events. So the sidewalk activities would be good to just bring in more people and the families and children. And also the daytime activities, like what they're doing in Fort Davis, McDonald Observatory, a telescope with a sun filter, that's a great idea. And bring everybody's awareness, you know, increase people's awareness and perspective of that. But we did identify several groups and had different thoughts and notes on activities that could be done to help educate and obtain maybe more acceptance of a dark sky ordinance.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of groundwork laid for that.
Okay, well, Eric, if the city council wants to talk to any of us, I think that we can we will happily meet with them.
Perfect. And I'll have this queued up for my city manager report on the April 20th meeting, and then you know, projecting to do first reading on the updates May 4th and second reading and public hearing on May 18th.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to clean up any more of that, of the draft is there any part of there that like needs cleaning?
No, I actually like
It's totally a draft.
Highlighting the changes is the most effective piece.
Okay.
They're not going to hunt for what the changes are. And I wouldn't either. I think having them highlighted is important. And then, once you send me over the list of people that have contributed, that's going to be important too. And I'll also share the document that Chloe presented today, plus, the other document with the agenda on it from today, and then share the website that Bill had shared as well. So that'll give them a lot of preparatory information. I don't have much on my city manager report as far as other topics. Kind of wanted to keep it more streamlined to this, because my sense is there'll be, 15, 20-minute conversation with council on this.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Well, good. All right. I'll be sure to be there.
Perfect. Should be another riveting meeting. Last council meeting for two of our counselors, too. It'll be the last council meeting for Rick Stevens and the last council meeting for Betty Fitzgerald. So.
Wow. Rick is going to be missed for sure. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, he is.
Change is hard.
The definite, very, well-spoken, highly articulate, high thinker. And
yeah, he set the standard pretty high for small town city councilors
and big city councilors. I mean, I've lived in big cities too and engaged with city council, and you rarely get somebody like Rick, even in the larger of communities.
Yeah. That's all his HR experience. He's
Well, he's just a genuinely smart guy. I mean, he's he comprehends what he reads fairly quickly, which is the key, right? Because he can get through more information and assimilate more ideas. But very good at engaging with people and opening dialogue and willing to look at other ideas. I mean, there's times, and I say this openly, I mean, there's times that, Rick and I don't necessarily agree on something right off the bat, but we'll talk through and come up with, what seems to make the most sense. And that approach that he's brought to the city is going to be important to carry on, because we don't all come with the same ideology. But what we don't want to have is the conflict and the pickety stuff amongst each other. We want to, people to have the ability to share their thoughts and their ideas, and then work forward, and things that make sense for the community get done. I hope that through the work that we've done from a city perspective, especially with dark skies, right? We could have just said, we're not going to do anything more here. But to me, there was enough energy and interest from people in the community that had some really important things to share. And so that's what's evolved us to where we're at now. I was talking to Kirsten Moody and Parks Board Chair yesterday, and she's taken a very similar approach with our parks. And it's that type of open dialogue that makes the community better. So, Laura, both you and Bill, thank you so much for all the work that you've put in here, because it does make a difference and it does help get things done.
Well, thank you, Eric, for your encouragement. Greatly appreciated all your effort.
Yeah.
I wish I had more time. I get pulled in a lot of different directions. So it's okay.
Better. I'm glad you're well. It's kind of spooky.
Thank you. Yeah, it definitely spooky, because you never know. When you get COVID, is it going to be pull me into left field, or am I just going to settle through it? I just settled through it. So
yeah, I'm glad. Well, that's good.
Thank you. Well, good. Well, I'll Lori, you and I'll ping back a couple messages with the list of people, and then we'll be ready to go for week after next.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, everybody.
Take care.